All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, happy time zone, wherever you are in the world, whenever you're watching this. And welcome to the first Vox stream of 2023. We are so stoked to be here with you, and we've got a ton of stuff to go over today. Strap in your seatbelts, is going to be a fun one. I am NF Thune, aka formerly known as NF Doom, the team lead on Vox, and I'm joined here by Mr. Kobe-Wan Kenobi, our product lead. How's it going, Kobe?
Doing good. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we have a ton to go over, guys. We are going to discuss short term, medium term, long term product activations, some art leaks, a bunch of fun stuff, VOXverse, game design, Odyssey, a ton of really, really meaty stuff. And so we're excited to have you here. And with that, let's kick off. All right, so this is a grand VOXverse image that you're seeing here. You're going to get a lot of concept art kind of peppered into this presentation, and I love this scene of this Vox gazing out into a coastal vista. And I especially love, shout out to our art team, the treatment of water. This like you may have seen this in the Trolls trailer, but the voxely kind of bobbing treatment of water is my favorite. But for new folks that are joining us, and also as a refresher for our OGs, I think it's important to start this off talking about the vision for VoxVerse. Let's like make sure that we're all aligned here, right? Um, you may have seen in the Gala vision paper that came out, Vox doesn't sit under Gala Games. You've got Gala Games, music, film, and then Vox is kind of its own category, and that's deliberate and it's salient, right? Because we're really serious about this proposition of being the connective tissue that holds the Gala ecosystem together, right? Think of social gaming taken or the social aspects of gaming taken to their logical extremes, such that they are in themselves a deep MMO, right? That's what Voxverse is. It's the space between Gala offerings that is in itself a deep social MMO, right? And that means that the stuff you do in Voxverse needs to have impact on Gala's other offerings. So, you know, your stats in Voxverse need to have some bearing on what you do in first-party games. And in that same way, the stuff you do in first-party games needs to translate back into progression in Voxverse, and that's an idea that we're super excited about, and that's kind of the north star of how we develop this thing. It does, of course, need to be a satisfying and deep MMO in its own right, as I said, and that's another huge focus for us. But what does that mean in practice, and how can we pull that forward such that it's not just the end state vision, but it's something that we execute on from the start? I'm excited to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about Mirandus. So for all you Mirandus heads out there, you probably are aware that equipping a Vox and Tavern games gets you extra coppers when you play the game. What you're probably not aware of, and what the Mirandus team has graciously allowed us to announce, is that having a Mirandus Vox paired with your Exemplar in the demo that's coming at the end of this month is going to give you a 25% HP boost, which is huge. Guys, I've seen this playtest. We take hashtag make Mirandus hard pretty freaking serious. This is a serious playtest that you guys are going to go through, and so that 25% is going to be huge. And so super excited about that as the first kind of short term application of this. But the interoperability goes beyond that. Mirandus is obviously a gamer's game, and as such, it is peppered with, and this demo is going to be peppered with player achievements, right? And we're not going to spoon feed those to you. You're going to play the game and be players and figure them out. But as you achieve those achievements, we are going to take those history flags and apply them to your Vox. So the achievements that you unlock doing this are going to have a bearing first and foremost in Vox Odyssey. So we're going to immediately ingest that information, and we'll speak to specifically what each one maps to as a benefit in Odyssey as you guys start to discover them. But that's going to be the first application, and then that'll carry forward to the VoxVerse as well. So just kind of want to demonstrate a bit of the spirit of how this interoperability is going to work within the wider Gala Games ecosystem. So we talked kind of long-term vision, we talked short-term. I'm going to hand it over to Kobe to talk a little bit about the medium term. Tell us about the year, Kobe.
Yeah, I want to talk about the year, but I'm just thinking about that Miranda's playtest. Yeah, I can't wait for it. But let's get into it. Let's talk about this year. Let's talk about Vox. So a little bit of a mindset shift for us here. We are centering on these three pillars for our roadmap and our overall vision for this year. So just getting right into the pillars. Product first approach. Like, what does that mean? That means a delivery first mindset, right? So this is shifting our mindset from what we had been before, pure play series sales. Now we're focused specifically on product delivery, getting products in your hands before any sales. Like, we want to be showing more than telling. We have so many product offerings that we're ready to get in front of you this year, nearly all of which will be free to play, which kind of leads us into our second pillar here: attract new audience, right? We love our community so much. Our community has made us what we are. We feel like we have some of the best community in Web3, but we want to share the beauty and fun of Vox with others, both from Web 2 and from Web 3, right? And this is beneficial to everyone. This is all to build the ecosystem to enable the eventual success of VOXverse. Like, we are leveraging mass appeal, marketing tactics, and some product activations that we're about to talk about. And we're really bridging the gap between Web 2 and Web 3 gaming in this attracting new audience. A lot of these go hand in hand, but another thing we're really focused on is bringing utility forward, right? Like, the community has been patiently waiting for VOXverse utility, Miranda's utility, Townstar utility. We want to give you utility sooner. We want things in your hands this year. You can use your Vox on and other product offerings that we have. And we have some product activations we're going to talk about today that are going to do just that. So speaking about product activations, we are going to go back to Doom to talk about some of that stuff.
Yeah, and real quick, I just kind of want to talk about that point about new audiences and mass appeal. Like, I think Vox is like absolutely the project that's going to bridge this, right? Think about our partnerships, right? Between one of the giants of Web2 gaming, Will, who's like hyper focused on this, the partnership with AMC, the partnership with DreamWorks, like these are all household names. So to me, like that's what it's all about, right? It's about finally bringing mass appeal to Web3 games, and I think Vox is absolutely the project that's going to pull that off. But yeah, we've got a little thing to show you on utility. Ooh, what is that? Ah, damn it, chicken didn't make it. All right, guys. What you saw just there is a beautiful take on chickens crossing roads. And yes, this is a mini game that the Vox team has been developing, and that we are going to release. We're not putting a date on it yet, but it's going to be the first next product offering that you get from the Vox team. The assets that you were seeing there are all real VOXverse game assets. So what we're doing is we're taking the stuff that we're building for VOXverse. We want to put it in front of you guys. We want to lay out Easter eggs and showcase the biomes and showcase different methodology, different art styles that we're exploring. So right now there's a heated debate on two different ways to do grass in VOXverse, and we want to start to put that kind of stuff in front of you guys, and get the community opinion when it comes to it, right? And we're going to be using this game to administer leaks and Easter eggs, as I said, showcase the biomes, test out different art styles, different lighting, different camera angles. So it's going to be a testing bed for a lot of the VOXverse art. So that's something that we're super excited about. We're pairing a familiar chicken crossing road mechanic with a competitive leaderboard, and we're going to be running weekly competitions with chunky prizes at the end of them. And that's going to be open to Vox holders first, right? So you guys are going to be competing within that closed group. Eventually, we're going to open it up to sort of a free-to-play audience, and we're going to use this as a UA spear tip to grow the ecosystem, and just introduce more people to the good message of Vox, right? And so I think we can agree that that's like, it's beautiful, it's hyper clickable, and it'll make a really, really good UA spear tip. And so we're super excited about that. We're also pairing it with what you're seeing here. So last week, and thank you guys for bearing with me. I was sick last week, so we had to postpone this. But we put forth with little context that little grid of these cyborg chickens. And yes, CC, for those of you paying attention, does stand for cyborg chickens. I don't know if anyone guessed that. I saw Cylon chickens as a guess. I think that was Tofu. Shouts out Tofu. But yeah, cyborg chickens, the first true Vox companion drop. People have been asking us for pets forever, right? And so this is kind of our take on that. I want to be clear that these aren't Vox. They're Vox companions. They're a very different scale than Vox, and they function more like pets in VOXverse. And we are going to be dropping them to all Vox holders as a Mayhem activation. So super, super excited about that. What is the point of them? What do they do? Well, beyond just like a reward drop and the fact that they look freaking awesome, shout out RoboCop chicken in the top left. That's my favorite. These things are going to have in VOXverse function not only as companions, but also as kind of resource, not magnets. What's it called when they look for stuff? Basically, you're going to be able to kind of let them loose and they're going to gather resources for you inside of VOXverse. But there's more immediate utility that tickles my fancy a little bit more. These are going to unlock a hidden secret zone in the first VOXverse playable. And I don't want to get ahead of myself. Kobe's going to talk us through that later on in the presentation, but there's going to be a secret zone within that playable that is only for holders of these chickens. Now, the coolest chickens that you're seeing are going to be dropped as rewards for Vox holders, but there's also going to be another path to getting these chickens, and that's through playing the mini game. And that's, again, as part of our strategy of bringing free-to-play players in and then introducing them to our ecosystem, and then eventually transitioning them to token holders in our ecosystem, right? So by playing the game and hitting certain milestones, a free-to-play player is going to be able to claim what I think is a different but still very cool version of these chickens. And so, yeah, it's kind of congruous with Gala's strategy that you've been seeing across mobile with Meow Match, with Dragon Strike. The idea is bring people in, let them play for free, and then let them earn their NFTs, and thereby introducing them to Web3 gaming and NFT holdings in a super, super fun, low friction way. And guys, I know we're talking about like all of the different reasons to do this game, but honestly, it's just like really freaking fun. Like, it's an addictive mechanic. It's beautiful art. And I'm excited to see how competitive we can get as an ecosystem as these leaderboards start to heat up. Now let's take a moment to appreciate these. Oops. What's your favorite chicken? Let me know in the comments. Mine is RoboCop. Anyone who agrees with me is right. But I'm curious, and there's a ton more. Like you guys saw that first grid that we posted yesterday, but there's a ton more of these, and we're so excited about this companion drop. All right. Let's talk a little bit about game design. And I want to give a disclaimer here. I'm obviously not the lead game designer on this project. That would be Mr. Will Wright. And Will is hard at work on what he calls the core of the onion. He's like super sleeves rolled up deep into prototype land right now. And he's obsessive. He's a very interesting in his methodology. He, walking around being delightful is something he takes very seriously. Climbing, swimming, jumping. I'm going to let him speak to all of those, and he's going to be on the very next AMA that we're doing, and that's going to be a very gameplay focused one. But I wanted to talk to you guys about a couple of things to get you thinking and to get you asking questions that we're going to feed into Will and are going to form the basis of the next AMA. So treat the stuff that I'm saying right now as like fertile ground for questions, and let me know all the questions that you have. But just a little bit of an update on where we are with shape grammars. So obviously it's a super cool system that we're very excited about. The problem that we faced with it was this agency problem, right? So specifically when you were building structures and you wanted the structure to bend to your will in a certain way, it was frustrating when the algorithm wouldn't go where you wanted it to go, right? And obviously that'll get better as the algorithm gets better, but we had an idea of pairing shape grammars with a sort of tile-based crafting system where you're kind of specifically for structures placing tiles. And pairing that with the shape grammars has been so powerful because it just like really allows you to shape the structure in the way that you want, but then it still has this like targeted I'm feeling lucky button that is shape grammars, and it's so it really is like a very interesting, delightful experience. And so super excited about that development. Another thing that I wanted to touch on is with the resource system. So we've talked about the 7 resources that are kind of the core of the crafting system and really underpin the economy of VOXverse. And that's wood, metal, stone, silicon, I suppose, wood, metal, stone, silicon, plant, animal, spice. I think I got them all. But anyway, so those cover all kind of the major crafting sectors that we wanted to hit. But we do think there's room for refinements there, right? And so we've introduced what is literally a refinement system where you can take something like metal and refine it into a more specific metal that serves your purposes better. So whether that's gold or steel or copper, it introduces depths to the system that allow more hardcore players to feel seen by the game. And that's a super important principle for us. And again, I'm going to let Will talk more about this stuff in detail, but I just wanted to let you guys know that these are developments to how we're thinking about crafting, and let us know what questions they spur. I'm sure there's going to be a lot. But yeah, it's with the crafting, with the 7 systems, like it's the philosophy here is like we want this to be a very mass appealy game, but we want it to also have the depths to allow people that are good, that are clocking into the nuance or the minutia of how to do things right. We want those people to feel very seen, and so that's what's driving this. All right. Next up, the other thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is Vox attributes. This is a question we get a lot. And we've kind of talked at the series level that your Vox will be instantiated in a certain way on the sort of matrix of liked, trusted, feared, famous, right? Walkers are scary, trolls are lovable. We know this. What we haven't talked as much about is the attribute level. I think Vox Odyssey does a really good job of celebrating the fact that your Vox holds a spatula versus dual wields swords versus an axe versus whatever, right? And so we are taking that system and adapting it to VOXverse. There's an interesting question that comes up around the immutability of the Vox, right? Like my Vox is immutable, it's an NFT, it's holding a spatula. Does that mean I'm forever holding a spatula? Can I chop trees with my spatula? How much of a limitation does this become? And so we've made the determination that your Vox's traits will provide sort of a permabuff, and you will have persistent access to specifically handheld items. So if you're holding a spatula, you're always going to be holding a spatula. That's always going to help you within a cooking system, right? But does that mean that you can't equip a, whatever, what are these things called? Hedge clippers, or an axe or whatever? Absolutely not. We don't want that to be restrictive, and we don't want to punish people for having cool Vox. And so we are introducing a gear system whereby Vox are going to be able to wield different things. Obviously, the NFT art itself remains immutable, but the in-game representation of your Vox is going to be more customizable. And we're going to let Will talk more about that, but just wanted to kind of give you guys directional sense of where we're going with this. All right, next up, we've got Odyssey. Some updates with Odyssey. Those of you in the beta channel will know that we've rolled out Souls integration, which I'm super excited about. For those of you who haven't done this already, please go test it out. Let us know what you think. The whole point of the way we're developing Odyssey is for it to be collaborative, iterative. We want to know if you think, it's broken, it's not broken enough, it's not differentiated enough, it's too differentiated, whatever. Give us your thoughts there. The other cool thing that's been rolled out is the second wave of adventures. So I believe it's they're all set in the London zone. I think there's a pub crawl and some other stuff. India Venom couldn't be with us today, but He's super excited about all of the new adventures that you guys can now play. So again, let us know what you think. I believe those are still in beta, but they're going to be rolled out soon to the rest of the community. And then one more exciting tidbit on Odyssey is that we are ready and awaiting deployment on the Odyssey API. So what the Odyssey API is going to give you the ability to do is have access to Vox levels, what current tasks and adventures Vox are on, stats, all that juicy stuff. And you can use that for any of your projects. We're also going to continue to roll out further functionality there. But we're going to be granting keys to the API gradually. And I'm excited to say that our first partner is going to be, shouts out to Mr. Lasagna. Our first partner is going to be VOXview. And so we'll continue to partner with more and more people, but VOXview feels like a supernatural first application of this. So we're excited to give him the first keys. So reach out to India Venom, Lasagna about that. Anywho, where are we now? Oh my God, Paul, wrong slide.
No, Paul, next slide. Paul.
Okay, that was a little bit of in-game footage for you guys that wasn't slated for this AMA, but that was exciting. All right, Kobe.
That was exciting. That was exciting for sure. Dang.
Where we're going, do we need roads?
Of course we need roads. Of course we need roads. What kind of a question is that? I'm going to talk a little bit about roadmap, no pun intended, but you heard from Doom earlier today on our AMA with Will how the game is going to function, right? The scenes you're seeing on this slide and the upcoming slides are going to show you how the world will actually look. And we've said this before, but we really feel like we have the best artists in the industry. And we are so happy with how this world is turning out and how it's looking. And we hope you like how it's looking as well. So without further ado, I'm going to walk you through the sequence of our upcoming product activations this year. So this is continuing our product first approach that we talked about at the beginning of the call, like very focused on that. That is our kind of like North Star here. So Doom talked about that the first thing you're going to get is this chicken mini game. And it is going to be entirely free to play. That is the first product activation you're going to see from our team. Then after that, we promised a playable, you are going to get a playable. You are going to get the first playable experience in VOXverse. And we're keeping some of the details a little bit close to the vest for now, but there are some things that we can share now. So in this playable, you'll be exploring some of the major biomes of VOXverse. You'll be exploring most of the major game mechanics, some themes of VOXverse. We're going to get into lore of VOXverse, and it's going to be a very narrative-driven playable. We're going to learn more about the game and the background and everything related to that. Another important aspect of the playable is it's going to be free to play. It's going to be entirely free to play. I think before we talked about potentially needing to own a land parcel to participate in the first playable. That is no longer the case. We want to open it up to everyone. We want everyone to be able to experience this real first incredible look at VOXverse. So that's why we're doing it free to play. So we got chicken game free to play, we've got playable free to play, and then after that, we will have our first
hidden level, dude. What about the hidden area?
Well, of course, we talked about that. And I'll kind of just double down on what Doom was talking about before. But everyone, right, who's a box holder, whether you have an unopened box or whether you have a box itself, you're going to get these incredible cyborg chicken characters. You're going to get 2 of them, one for you, one for friends. And if you hold one of them, then you are going to have access to this secret level in this playable. Keeping a little tight on what that secret level is right now, but it is going to be incredible and like a really like exclusive experience. So holding that chicken will have utility in the playable as well, in addition to VOXverse.
It's going to be a very different experience to the rest of the playable. So it's absolutely worth having, and that's going to be the only token gated bit there. But yeah, the rest of it, like we want people's eyes on Will Wright's newest creation, right? And so it's going to be super fun.
100%, 100%. Good shout. So yeah, just talking a little bit about the land sale. So we'll have brought some new people. That's the next thing after the playable. We'll have brought some new people in through the mini game, through the playable, and incentivizing them, to buy land, all without jeopardizing a Vox holder's ability to secure land. Vox holders will all be prioritized, and this isn't just a sale. This is a land rush in which we'll be exploring the world together. There's a story driven narrative woven in. We'll be seeing things in depth like never before. And there's some big, wondrous things coming that we aren't quite ready to share, but we think people are going to be happy and excited about. So that's next. And at the exact same time as the land sale, there's going to be a crafting tool come out. This crafting tool, encompassing and expanding upon shape grammar, will be live at the same time as the land sale. And you can save and you can mint your crafts for VOXverse. You can save them in your inventory. You can mint them if you want. And this is just along the lines of what we were talking about before, which is pulling utility forward, right? Owning land will have immediate utility in this crafting tool in the spirit of bringing utility forward.
So Kobe, just so I'm clear here, we're going chicken game, then we're doing a playable, then we're doing a narrative story-driven land sale. Ownership of land unlocks the crafting tool. Now you'll be able to experience crafting in the playable, but the salient difference in the crafting tool is that you're making real assets for VOXverse, which you can mint, which you can then keep, sell, explore, push the limits, do whatever you want, right? And start to, just populate the world with UGC. That's kind of what we're saying.
You got it, man. You got it. And we're building all these things, all the things you mentioned, for the betterment of VOXverse. And building these things take time. We're purposely not setting firm dates at this point, but know that we're growing our team to deliver even faster. And every single person on this team is working their tail off to deliver these things as soon as humanly possible, I promise. There's a ton of fun to come this year. Hopefully you're hearing that through these different products that are going to be in your hands, and all roads are leading to VOXverse. So with that, we're going to show a little bit of the art. We're going to show some of what our artists have been up to. You're seeing this desert scene. You've been seeing it for a little bit. We've also got the scene that Doom was talking about in the beginning, this Vox peering over into the ocean, looking at this land across a cliff, real areas in VOXverse. Like each of these images corresponds to specific land areas in VOXverse, and this is really how VOXverse is going to look biome by biome.
Wait, go back to that for a sec. Guys, I want you to help me settle something because, and you'll see this laid out in the chicken game, there's multiple treatments of water that we're experimenting with. And anyone who agrees with me that this Bobby voxel treatment is super cool, differentiated, interesting, and we love it, we need to fight the good fight. Let your voices be heard, because I'm so keen on having this. And there's a bunch of different ones that we're exploring. And again, this is like part of the fun of the chicken game, is like we're going to be laying out all these like different interpretations on stuff, and you can help us design VOXverse essentially. And anyway, I just wanted to make my case for this water treatment. And if you're not sure how it like interacts, it's in the Trolls trailer as well. If you want to go back and check that out, when the train zooms into the ocean, you can see the physics involved in that. But yeah, just throwing my hat in there for Bobby Voxel Water.
Dude, you're not gonna have to convince me. I'm convinced. There's some other folks you're gonna have to convince on there, but yeah, definitely let us know what you think. So just continuing through this art stuff. Got our boy sailing on a nice, beautiful lake. Here's a little bit of a different water treatment here, but this is still water. This is not ocean water. I think that's important to call out here. Kind of got some jungle, oceany stuff going on here.
I agree that the treatment of still water should be different. Like I like this like crystal take on still water, but I just think like turbulent water to me needs to become turbulent in that voxely way. Is that a leak about Vox boats? Are we talking about that?
Oh man, I don't know. I think it's a leak about Vox mosquitoes with how still that water is.
Love it.
All right, let's keep running. So more land means more chests. So similar to the fantasy chests in the Trolls land drop, we've built out chests for each series and each rarity. And so here's just like a quick look at some of them.
Love a good animated chest.
Oh yeah, it's the best. All right, so this art kind of speaks to different styles of building in each district, and you can just see how you like have that look and feel like on the land is going to be kind of unique and custom to that district, and kind of experimenting with different ways that this is going to look.
And this is our like cemented take on like what these districts are going to feel like. So you've got the you can kind of figure out which series each is inspired by. But on the left is sort of an old timey, westerny, saloony type feel. The second one from the left is my favorite because it's horror, but we had some differences of opinion on what horror meant. Was horror post-apocalyptic or was horror sort of Victorian, Dracula vibes? And we smashed them together, and I love the outcome. I think it's a very, very interesting take on horror scenes. In the middle, we took sort of fantasy, but we took like more of an Eastern, like Miyazaki take on fantasy, which I also love. Urban is just kind of like it's not like this isn't as cyberpunky of a scene, but I just love like it's kind of like edgy. I don't have the right design words to describe this, but I like how we've dealt with urban as well. And then, as you can see, like this Jenga concept that we've introduced before really is a forcing function for a different take on all of these like classical themes, right? So like on the very right side, that's a take on medieval, which is like very different than what you might expect from like a medieval times type castle. But it's really interesting to build it from the perspective of like these little shipping container units, each of which is themed in like a traditional way that that corresponds to that theme. So with medieval, you've got a castle-y type thing, more of like a tavern feel. All of these different containers that then get what's the word? Augment each other into like a Jenga-like structure. That's super interesting. VOXverse is going to have a wicked art style, guys.
No doubt about that. More stuff on the art style, kind of looking at the progression of building on your land, like on a land plot, like in one singular style. So you can see like how the progression happens, building on top of each other, kind of illustrating that Jenga concept, that augmentation concept that Doom is talking about here. And you can see kind of like how your building can grow on your lands.
Mm-hmm. And the size of these buildings like is a function generally of like the size of the plot that you're building on. So there'll be restrictions on how high you can go, how many levels, how many different sort of Jenga elements you can smash together. And then ultimately the size of the thing dictated by land will then dictate what you can do with the place. And so there's going to be, whether it's like the difference between a push cart and a megaplex is going to be determined by that kind of sizing. Love these. I love this progression.
Awesome.
Look.
Yeah, me too. It's so epic. All right. Well, this is an AMA, so let's answer some questions. We did get some questions beforehand. I'm also going to start looking at the YouTube link now, answering some questions there. But let's get started with some of the questions that we already have, and then we'll get into the live questions.
I have a question. So, were those bucks and irrelevant chickens? Is that what that was?
You know the answer to this. Who do you ask questions that you know the answer to? I think everybody knows the answer to that just saw this.
Guys, should there be a Bucks chicken as part of the chicken drop? And should it be a 1 of 1? And should it go to Bucks? 3 questions for you. Ask you anything.
Yeah, we're changing the format a little bit here. Let's see, come on, we got so many questions, man. We got to get to them. People want to know. All right, so Doom. We got a question from Baldian Arafat. Will VOXverse be more advanced and broader than Sandbox?
I think the current metaverse offerings are definitely something to improve upon. And I think VOXverse will be different than Sandbox also, because Sandbox is essentially like a Roblox concept for Web3. Which is an interesting take, and I do love user-generated games as like a driver for people to keep coming back. However, ours is going to be more of a bespoke, curated experience, right? Like it's a lot more gamified than just walking around the sandbox. So as a player, like you already have that deep social MMORPG to engage with. And then as far as like your ability to launch into different games, like those are going to be Gala titles, right?
Yeah.
Eventually down the line, should they be titles published outside of Gala? Like I think that's an interesting concept. But it's essentially like the engagement is less driven by the infinite customizability of the games and more driven by like a beautiful bespoke experience. So I think of it as like Apple versus Samsung. Like I don't know if we have a lot of Samsung folks. There's a bunch of like diehard Samsung or Android people, but it's more of like an Apple experience.
But open to, of course, and Android users. All about inclusivity here in VOXverse.
Oh yeah, that was. Absolutely.
I'm playing with you, man. You talked a little bit about attributes earlier on today. You talked about your handheld items, those kind of things. Wander is wondering in VOXverse, will we be able to craft our own clothes? What do you think about that?
The answer is something that Will's been thinking about cementing for a while, but I do think like in the spirit of what I said earlier, like we are leaning into more customizability. And this is a good sort of point for the community to weigh in on. Like, I want my box immutable, but we're essentially working on systems for how the immutability of your box is preserved, and the cosmetics that are inherent to your box are preserved, while also giving you the customizability to do stuff like tailor your own clothes. And sell your own clothes. It also just like opens up a ton of like commerce and economic opportunities. And so the answer is a soft yes, and it's something that Will is cementing. But this is the kind of thing where, yeah, I said Will is like focused on the core of the onion. This is the kind of thing where you'll ask Will about it, and he'll be like, we need to make sure crafting feels delightful. We need to make sure that like climbing is fun, swimming is fun, like movement, camera controls. He's a perfectionist on every layer of a progressive onion. And so this is the kind of thing he's okay leaving as an open question to later, and then answering once it's being implemented in production code based on whether it feels right or not. Philosophically, I think we're all aligned that we like the customizability.
So sounds like you're saying there's a chance, there's an opening here. Let your voices be heard. We got to convince Will, we got to convince Doom, so let your voices be heard in Discord. We've got a bunch of questions to get through, so let's start doing them kind of like quick hits. Chewbacca's wondering, will resources regenerate on land?
Yes.
Absolutely. When will the land sale occur? Also from Chewbacca.
After the playable and at the same time as the crafting tool.
Cryptic, but I like it. Okay, this is a question we've been getting a lot. Will there be more land types? This is another Chewbacca question. What's the difference between fantasy versus OG Galaverse versus horror? What are the differences in between those? And what is this OG Galaverse land? I feel like maybe people don't know.
Yeah, so the OG Galaverse land is land that we gave to OGs at Galaverse. Let me talk to the first part of the question first. Essentially, like owning different land, like think of it like owning properties on both coasts, right? Like, is it better to have a house in the Hamptons and a house in LA? Yes. But the more grounded in gameplay, like the districts are different geographic locations where different resources spawn at different rates. So in order to have like a self-sufficiency there, there's a lot of interdependence designed in the way that we've laid out the map. And so it's kind of like helping yourself become more self-sufficient there. The other thing is like the districts, in case anyone's not clear on this, biomes are like sort of natural features. Districts are pertain more to like man-made UGC, Vox-made UGC. And so the districts will incentivize you to build in a certain art style. We won't like definitely ban you from building in other art styles, but like we'll incentivize you to build towards one of those styles that we laid out there. And so it'll unlock different shape grammars for you such that you can populate the world in that image. It'll provide the different resources for you to be able to do so. So it's just synergies.
Lot there, lot to unpack there. We won't even get into it right now. We're going to talk Odyssey. Lognus is wondering a question about adventures. So he's saying, seem to be failing most of mine, returning without resources. How do you feel about that? Do you still gain reputation even if you fail? Do you want to get more stats up before trying the adventures with Sandbox? Maybe we can talk about kind of like the success metrics here.
Yeah, I think you can think of like adventures are based primarily, like the outcome of the adventures is based on your VOX's stats and skill gates, essentially, that it'll go through, as well as an RNG, but it's primarily the skill gates. And so it's like playing any game. If you're dungeon crawling and you face a boss that you're not ready to face and you get smashed, then you just kind of have to get good. So I would say use the tasks to get good. If this is like an issue that people are seeing with balancing, which I'm not sure that it is a widespread issue, but that's the kind of thing that would be like a balancing fix that we can do on our end. But I think for now, like your first the first thing I would do is just level up your box with tasks. There's less of a failure state there.
Yeah, and I think we've seen like, tens of thousands of adventures already. So tell us how you feel. Like, is the fail rate too high? Tell us how you feel about the balancing. Like Doom mentioned earlier, like we're really interested in getting your opinion and building this out together like we have been since day one in Odyssey.
And my philosophy, just quick thing on this, is like if you can't fail, then it's not a game, right? And that's kind of why we made crafting deeper. Is like if everyone's just doing the same thing and there's no skill vector and there's no fail state, then it's not a game, right? So it's part of like and talk to India Venom for like the juicy deeds of like specific adventures and what specific stats will impact them and how to optimize for that. But yeah, generally just level up.
Cool. Let's do it. All right, let's talk about resources in Odyssey. Resources gathered in Odyssey, those directly translate to VOXverse?
We've said this multiple times. It won't be one-to-one, but the sort of added depth of the resource system with the refinement system will allow for like better pairing, right? Because like obviously the 7 resources don't map exactly to the Odyssey resources, but now we can use this as a tree to make better pairings there. But yeah, we've always said they will transfer directly, meaning like with no in between steps, but it just won't be a one-to-one.
Cool, sounds good. Any plans for May Mayhem on the Vox team?
Was my chicken?
What was that?
Chicken peck. Yeah, the chickens. Our companion drop is slated for Mayhem, so we're excited about that.
Oh, wow, is that a date? Is that a date we just heard? When more Vox merch? What are we doing about the merch? People seem to love the Trolls hoodies.
The people want merch. Yeah, it's something we're exploring. I think there's like a ton of stuff going on in the Vox team right now, so this has been deprioritized a little bit, but we are actually working on a little a side project that's a form of very interesting merch that's going to be like sort of a self-service thing that you're going to be able to use your Vox to do. And so that'll more details on that soon. We're thinking about it. Merch in the traditional hoodie sense. Let us know if that's like if there's huge demand for that, but it's not like an immediate thing that we're working on right now, except for this like little side project, which is exciting.
Cool, sounds good. I want some more Vox merch myself. Okay, I can take this next one. Tofu's wondering, will Gala make their own rarity tool? Seems weird that we rely on a third party. I agree. We have done rarity tools for the past few series, and that remains our source of truth for now. We have a lot of other product focuses right now, as you can see, like with all the things we've been talking about today. We definitely do want to build our own rarity tool. We want to be fully in control of this, and I think for future series that we will be in control. So we will make our own rarity tool. And then the other thing, we've been getting a question like, when is Series 5 coming out? So we've mentioned this throughout today, and I think it's become clear over the past few months that we're focusing on VOXverse. We are entirely focusing on VOXverse and the stability of the game and growing that ecosystem before we have another series of Vox and before we have another sale. There will be a Series 5, I'm sure there will be, but you can hear all the work that's going on in VOXverse and all the products that we need to build and all the things that we want to get in your hands this year. And so this is the reason that we haven't announced Series 5 yet. This is the reason why Series 5 is not coming just yet, and we're hyper-focused on building out the game. Let's see some other live questions that were coming in. Oh yeah, here's a good one from Dorbs84. Will there be a continually demand for resources, or will things break or need to be maintained? What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, there's going to be maintenance, and there's going to be continually regenerating resources, and there's going to be resources that you can't get to where you are, and you're going to need to travel and sort of quest for them. There's a lot of continuous interdependency baked into the game design.
Sounds good. All right, so I'm a chicken holder. I'm wondering, what kind of chicken am I going to get? Am I going to get special treatment? Am I going to get a unique chicken? What are we going to do for the chicken holders?
The chicken holders will be taken care of with the chicken drop. Let's. I'm gonna leave it at that. But yeah, chickens love chickens, and we love chickens.
Sounds good. All right, let's see. We want to do another couple. Okay, maybe we can clear up kind of some land stuff here. So we got a question from Orduck Maniac. So the world will be a Jenga tower? Question mark. You dig down, you hit Western. You dig down and hit Walking Dead. How's that going to work?
No, it's not that the world is a Jenga tower. The world is a world, but it's just as we like Vox are so interesting and unique, and we wanted to give them a world that was interesting and unique, and we fell in love with this Jenga concept for how the buildings stack. And so it'll be more of a feature of the buildings, and buildings will generally look like, be based in these shipping container units that then stack in interesting ways. It creates a lot of visual variety. It's very interesting. It's very distinct, I think.
Makes sense to me. All right, let's do two more, and then that is going to be it. So I'll do a quick one. I see Tofu in YouTube talking about 3D printed Vox. We might or might not be running a little bit of a trial run on that, getting some samples in this week to see the viability of that. So more to come.
That may or may not have been the secret merch project I was talking about, and you can tell me if 3D printed Vox qualify as merch. I think they do.
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna like put your 3D printed Vox like on a huge necklace, like a gold
merch,
chain, or like
is merch specific to wearables? Merch just means merchandise.
Yeah, no, it's merch. It's merch for sure. Yeah. Okay, so last thing, last question, and then we'll end. We've gone a little bit over, but we haven't talked to you guys in a while, so we really wanted to answer like a ton of questions. We have fishing. Will we have fishing in VOXverse? I feel like we've talked about this, so it's gonna be fun.
Fishing? Like fishing for fish?
Yeah.
There'll be fishing in VOXverse. Do you? I just find it funny that you picked that as the last question. But yeah, there'll be fishing in VOXverse. It'll be sort of think of it as a needs fulfillment, one of the needs fulfillment mechanisms which there'll be a bunch of. And as you know, one of the needs is hunger, and so there's like a lot of obvious systems that go with that. One of which is fishing.
That's why I picked the questions. We could talk about the needs, the fulfillment system, what it does.
Right,
right, man.
You set me up. Okay. All right, they'll be fishing in VOXverse. Confirmed.
Want to take us out, Doom?
Yeah, guys, it's been a busy quarter for us, doing a lot of planning, doing a lot of sort of upskilling and growing the team, and prioritizing you guys essentially, and trying to think about how strategically, not only building this thing, but just launching it into massive success as well. And so, just to reiterate those focuses of ours that guide everything, and you guys should be able to check us on, any activation that we do, as to our adherence to these things. But we want to be product first. You shouldn't have to purchase things before you get to play the offering, right? And so that's kind of a mindset that we're adopting, and so and it's why we're focusing on making a lot of these sort of free to play native experiences, but then you obviously, to make the most of the ecosystem, the NFT ownership remains super important part of that. So we're really excited about that, and really excited for like a strong cadence of product releases this year. Hopefully, you guys are too, pulling utility forward and using all of that, like not just to serve our community, but to grow our community. Um, I think the rising tide will lift all ships on this one, and I'm excited to see where we are at the end of this year. It's going to be a crazy ride. We're committed to these principles. We're committed to you guys. Thank you so much for your continued support. We'll be in Discord if you have more questions. We're not going to disappear. But yeah, that concludes the Q1 stream.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Talk to you
Thanks,
later.
guys.